All the slides presented here belongs to their respective owner. I or the channel does not claim any rights over them. Hello everyone, I am Shahan Laik. I am third year MBBS student and today I will discuss a very important topic in NEET PG DNB and EMS examination, that is tuberous sclerosis. So what is tuberous sclerosis? What is the pathogenesis? What is the clinical diagnosis? What is the sign and symptoms? What is the treatment? So everything basically I will discuss in this video. So watch the video completely and you will get a great knowledge from this video. So what is tuberous sclerosis? Tuberous sclerosis is a multi-system genetic disorder. So multi-system means many systems are involved and it is a genetic disorder. Due to genetic mutation, this disease occurs and many organs are involved. Multi-organ tumors are there. Many organs tumors can be found in brain, kidney, skin. According to the National Institute of Neurological Disorder and Strokes, that is known as NINDS, NINDS, tuberous sclerosis occurs in 1 in 6,000 newborns. So it is with 6,000 newborn, you get a 1 case of TS. Now, what are the symptoms of tuberous sclerosis? Seizures, developmental delay, skin abnormalities, diseases of the lungs, kidney, autism, and also benign tumors in some particular organs. Seizures are found in 70% of the patient. Some patient, like 40% patient, have autism, learning disability. Some 50% patient have eyes problem, and kidney problem 80% of the patient. 50% has heart problem. So all these are actually the symptoms: seizure, developmental delay, skin abnormalities. I will show you with picture what are the skin abnormalities and disease of the lungs, kidney, everything in this video. So watch this video continuously, you will get knowledge from this video. Genes involved. So what are the genes that is involved in this disease? Always remember TSC1 and 2. So TSC means tuberous sclerosis complex 1 and tuberous sclerosis complex 2. So these are the two genes. Basically they are known as the complex because they are actually the collection of genes, tuberous sclerosis complex 1 and tuberous sclerosis complex 2. So they are present in two different chromosomes. One is 9, another is 16. So TSC, tuberous sclerosis complex 1, is situated in chromosome number 9 and TSC, tuberous sclerosis complex 2, situated in chromosome number 16. Basically their action is tumor suppression. How they suppress the tumor? Basically they act on mTOR. They act on mTOR. You have to remember this mTOR. mTOR is very important for your NEET PG DNB examination because all these are questions that are asked in FMG examinations also. mTOR is asked. So code for the protein that repress the cell cycle or even induce apoptosis. Basically what does this TSC1 and TSC2 does? Tuberous sclerosis complex 1 and 2, they actually produce a protein. So this protein actually repress the cell cycle and also induce apoptosis. So by this method, by this process, actually the mTOR is actually suppressed and eventually the tumor are suppressed. So tumor growth does not occur, tumor cell division do not occur, so the tumor cannot proliferate. So in this way it occurs. Always remember TSC1 codes for the protein known as hamartine and TSC2 codes for the protein known as tuberin. Now hamartine is 130 kilodalton and tuberin is 200 kilodalton. So tuberin is the heavier one. Remember TSC2 tuberin, which is the heavier one, 200 kilodalton, and TSC1 hamartine is 130 kilodalton, which is lighter one. Now let us learn about the target of the genes. So all these genes actually target mTOR. I told you about mTOR. Basically mTOR. and also a drug that is known as rapamycin, that is designed also based on targeting mTOR. So both the drugs and the genes are actually targeting the mTOR. Serine threonine protein kinase, basically serine threonine protein kinase regulate growth, proliferation, motility. So this mTOR is actually protein kinase, serine threonine protein kinase, which regulate the cell growth, cell proliferation, cell motility, cell survival, protein synthesis, transcription. So everything is controlled in mTOR. So generally mTOR is suppressed, so the tumor is suppressed by the genes TSC1 and 2. But when these genes TSC1 and 2 are actually mutated, then what happens? This mTOR get hyperactivated. mTOR gets hyperactivated, and if mTOR gets hyperactivated, then the cell divisions and cell growth of all the tumors increases. So the cell division will go on, carry on for the tumor cells. So the tumor cell will proliferate and it will spread. So you can understand what is the mechanism behind the formation of this disease, tuberous sclerosis. Now you can understand TSC1 and 2 actually suppress the mTOR regulation. I told you in healthy condition TSC1 and 2 actually suppress the mTOR regulation, but when these TSC genes are mutated, then mTOR gets hyperactive. I told you about the hyperactive state of the mTOR, which is very important, and these are asked in NET PG DNB examinations, FMG examination. So remember, mTOR gets hyperactive when TSC genes are mutated. mTOR get hyperactive, and then what happens? Then the tumor growth happens. The tumor grows in size, the tumor cell division occurs. So in this way the disease tuberous sclerosis occurs. Next you see the treatment available. Basically there is no proper treatment for tuberous sclerosis, but we have drugs, don't worry about it. Rapamycin is actually the drug to suppress the hyperactivity of the mTOR. So when mTOR is the hyperactivity of the mTOR is decreased, then we can get back the normal cell growth and all this, which is which we can decrease the tumor size and tumor. So rapamycin is the drug of choice, which is actually targeted at the mTOR hyperactivity by decreasing the hyperactivity of the mTOR. Other drugs are no other drugs are there in the market, and there are other surgery options, excisions of tumors available, electrotherapy. I will show you with picture, you will learn it. This is the picture which is taken from a particular website. It is actually showing a woman with adenoma sebaceum. Adenoma sebaceum is actually, you can see the woman around the nose of the woman. You can see there are so many small rounded tumors. These are adenoma sebaceum. So this is one of the characteristics of tuberous sclerosis. Now you look at this picture. This is the original picture. You can see how very small rounded tumors has appeared, basically surrounding the nose on the two sides lateral to the nose, and these are extending to the cheeks, and some has developed below the lower labium, lower lip, and some adenoma sebaceum has also developed on the forehead. So in this way it is radiating to the sides. You can understand this is adenoma sebaceum, which is one of the characteristic features of tuberous sclerosis. This is another picture where you can appreciate adenoma sebaceum tuberous sclerosis. So adenoma sebaceum, which is a characteristic feature of tuberous sclerosis, you can appreciate this. This is another picture which I am showing, that is also showing the same thing, adenoma sebaceum. And basically why I'm showing all these pictures, because if nowadays all the questions are directly based on images, image based questions comes in NEET, PG, DNB and FMG examinations. So you must understand through understand a disease with the help of the images that will eventually help you in your examination. This slide is actually showing a father with all three children having the tuberous sclerosis complex, TSC. The children are now grown up and normal intelligence, including the young lady at the left who is cursing wet from the therapy of SCTH for infantile spasm. So you can understand this, the tuberous sclerosis is actually sometimes a family disease, and in most of the cases, basically in most of the cases, it is not a family disease. Like in most of the cases, some patient comes who do not have any relative, his direct relative, maybe father or mother or grandparents, no one in the family is having this disease, so they don't have any idea. In most of the cases, de novo occurs, de novo gene mutation. But in some cases you can find like this, like the father is having the disease, so the children is also having the disease. So here the familial genetic mutation is occurring. Now let us discuss the important signs and symptoms of tuberous sclerosis. You can see in the picture, this is typical ash leaf macules. You can see the hypopigmented area on the back of the pediatric child, and you can see the nodular area on the upper lumbar area. So nodular area, that is upper lumbar area, is Shaw-Green patch. Shaw-Green patch is a kind of leathery appearance of the skin, which I will show you in further slides. Now can you appreciate these marks? What are these? These are actually the ash leaf macules, which is found in a pediatric patient while examining his buttocks. So you can see here how it looks, hypopigmented macules that is found, and this is one of the feature of tuberous sclerosis. Now this slide is actually for comparing the left and the right. You can see the right side is the ash leaf and the left side is the macule, which is hypopigmented area, which looks like in the shape of ash leaf. So you can appreciate on the back of the pediatric patient having the ash leaf macule, hypopigmentation macule. So this is one of the feature of tuberous sclerosis. This is another picture. You can see the right leg, and you can see what you can look is actually a leaf like hypopigmented macule, that is the ash leaf macule. And this is one of the classical feature of the tuberous sclerosis I told you. So you can appreciate this picture also. Now let us learn about Shaw-Green patch. So what is Shaw-Green patch? You can see the right side is for comparing it, the Shaw-Green patch, the Shaw-Green leather. Shaw-Green is actually a specific kind of leather which is untanned. So you can see the right side, which it is kind of raw leather which has not been processed well now. So you can see how it looks, and the left side, the skin lesion which is there, that is Shaw-Green patch, which looks leathery, similar kind of untanned leather like patch. So this is known as, these lesions are known as the Shaw-Green patch, which is one of the characteristic feature of tuberous sclerosis. Now this is another picture showing Shaw-Green patch. You can appreciate this. This is one of the feature of tuberous sclerosis, the leathery patch you can see here. Basically the Shaw-Green patch can be found on the back and also on the trunk, on the anterior or posterior portion of the trunk, sometimes on the sides. Now this you can appreciate the Shaw-Green patch on the forehead of this patient. Sometimes it can occur on the face also. Now this is among the minor criteria for diagnosis of the tuberous sclerosis, which is minor, like hypomelanotic macules. You can see all these dotted hypopigmented area. So these are actually confetti-like hypopigmentation. This is known as confetti-like hypopigmentation. These are actually hypomelanotic macules. So the melanin has been decreased in these small dotted areas, and you can see this is one of the feature of tuberous sclerosis, but not a major criteria. This is a minor criteria for diagnosis of tuberous sclerosis. Basically, there are major and minor criteria for diagnosis of tuberous sclerosis. I will discuss in this video, don't worry about it, how to diagnose tuberous sclerosis. So don't worry, I will make you understand. Now, can you appreciate this? What is this? This is angiofibroma. So you can see multiple angiofibromas are there on the face of this patient. Along with there is cephalic fibrous cephalic plaque. So there is cephalic plaque which is there on the base of the nose. You can see here the plaque, fibrous cephalic plaque, and small angiofibromas. So angiofibromas, what are angiofibromas? Angiofibromas are basically the tumors which grows, these are fibromas, fibrotic tumors which grows around the blood vessel, basically around the walls of the blood vessels, surrounding the blood vessels. So you can appreciate these two features, angiofibromas and fibrocephalic plaque, which is one of the characteristics of tuberous sclerosis patient. This is another picture which is showing multiple facial angiofibroma. You can appreciate all the angiofibromas which are very small rounded structures, and this appears basically on the face of the patient. Now by this picture it will be clear to you how angiofibroma on the face appears. You can see the patient. There are so many little angiofibromas that has occurred, and sometimes this angiofibroma is accompanied with the plaque. So sometimes you can get plaque along with angiofibromas. Those plaque are known as the cephalic plaque, which accompany the angiofibromas. This is another picture of facial angiofibromas, and this angiofibroma, small angiofibromas, has the characteristics of butterfly. So this is known as butterfly pattern of facial angiofibromas because it is spreading from the nose towards the lateral side in the shape of the wings of the butterfly, just like the lateral wings of the butterfly on the two sides. So that is why it is known as facial angiofibroma with the characteristics butterfly pattern. Sometimes these are asked in examination, like butterfly pattern of facial angiofibromas can be found in, so you have to say, tuberous sclerosis patient. Now what do you think it is? It is the cephalic plaque. I told you, fibrotic cephalic plaque, which generally accompanies the angiofibromas, cephalic plaque. Another characteristics of the tuberous sclerosis patient is Cohen's tumor. Cohen's tumor. So what is Cohen's tumor? It is actually periungual fibroma. So peri means periphery, on the periphery. Ungual means related with the fingers, basically the nails. And you can see these nail tumor, that is periungual fibroma. So these are Cohen's tumor. Cohen's tumor are actually the fibromas that is found on the side of the nail or on the base of the nail. You can see how it looks. Periungual fibroma, Cohen's tumor. It is one of the characteristics of tuberous sclerosis. This is another picture where you can see periungual fibroma, and you can see how Cohen's tumor has developed. These are very small rounded tumor which is found on the base of the nail, you can see. Now why is this slide for? This is actually the tuberous sclerosis complex can cause non-cancerous tumor in major organs. So there are many organs, basically the major organs in which non-cancerous tumors can occur due to tuberous sclerosis. So the organs are brain, eyes, lungs, heart, kidney, nails, skin. So all these are affected. Basically the tumors are formed in tuberous sclerosis, but these tumors are non-cancerous. Now you have to know that tuberous sclerosis is a autosomal dominant disorder, autosomal dominant, and there are two genes I told you, TSC1 and TSC2. TSC1 is gene mutation is related with hamartin, I told you about the protein hamartin that is produced by TSC1 and tuberin that is produced by TSC2. Now let us discuss the other features of tuberous sclerosis. You can see in the picture. This is enamel pitting. Enamel pitting. You can see how pitting occurs on the hardest layer of the teeth enamel. Basically, a dentist or sometimes the physical examinations by a physician can point out this thing. When you are observing as a physician, you must look at the oral portion of the patient who is suffering from tuberous sclerosis, because there are so many oral tumors are there, and you have to understand, along with oral tumors you can get enamel pitting. This is the picture where it is shown gingival fibroma and dental pitting together. So what is gingival fibroma? Gingival fibroma are the fibromas, that is the fibrous tumor which occurs in the gum. So that is why it is known as gingiva. Gingiva means gum. So along with, you will get the enamel pitting, or you can say dental pitting, the same thing. So this picture is showing the gingival fibroma and dental pitting. This is another picture showing the gingival fibromatosis. You can see here gingival fibromatosis. This picture shows it clearly. These are features of the oral cavity of the tuberous sclerosis patient. So along with that, you have cortical tubers. So tubers are actually the tumors which are produced inside the brain of a tuberous sclerosis patient, and you can see these tubers with the help of the MRI scan basically, and these are present on the periphery, that is a cortex of the brain. So basically, what is the meaning of tubers? Tubers means lump or a bump that is seen in tuberous sclerosis. Basically cortical tubers, which is common feature of tuberous sclerosis. Now people has a wrong conception that if you have multiple tubers, then the normal intelligence and other neurological outcome is hampered in a child. But actually it is observed that multiple tubers are present in a child in tuberous sclerosis, but the child is having the normal intelligence and well controlled seizure, and the neurological outcome of the patient is also good. So high number of tuber counts does not mean that he has poor neurological outcome. So you have to understand, it is not related. High number of tuber count does not invariably mean poor neurological outcome. This is another very important tumor which is present in tuberous sclerosis, that is SEGA. So what is SEGA? SEGA means subependymal giant cell astrocytoma. Basically, you know that there are ventricles, brain ventricles, for the lateral ventricle, third ventricle, fourth ventricle. All these are the cavities inside the brain which contains the CSF, which is produced by the choroid plexus. Now these ventricles are lined by ependymal cells. Below the ependymal cells there is a layer, subependymal. In that layer you have this giant cell astrocytes, giant cell astrocytes, which where the tumor occurs, and that is why it is known as subependymal giant cell astrocytoma, that is SEGA, which you can understand with the help of the radiological imaging. SEGA is one of the characteristics of tuberous sclerosis patient. This picture is showing non-obstructive ventricular rhabdomyomas. So basically rhabdomyomas means striated muscle tumors which occurs here. Non-obstructive ventricular, so inside the ventricles you get this non-obstructive which do not produce obstruction, but inside the ventricles you get these rhabdomyomas. In case of the tuberous sclerosis patient, always remember this, non-obstructive ventricular rhabdomyomas are one of the feature of TSC TSC patients. Now this is a chest filled CT and a lung filled CT, and you can see in the chest CT these small rounded structures. What are they? They are actually the cyst, pulmonary cyst. These are pulmonary cyst. Now you know cyst means fluid filled sac like structure, fluid filled cavities that is there in tuberous sclerosis patient, and you can observe that with the help of the CT scan. So multifocal pulmonary cyst that are present in tuberous sclerosis patient as a characteristics of LAM. So what is LAM? Tuberous sclerosis patient has LAM, lymphoangiomyomatosis. Lymphoangio means lymphoids and angio means blood vessels. So lymphoid and blood vessels and myomatosis along with the muscles involved. So these three together forms the LAM. So it is a kind of disease which occur in case of the tuberous sclerosis. LAM, that is lymphoangiomyomatosis. In that you get the pulmonary cyst. So in the tuberous sclerosis patient, you will get multifocal pulmonary cyst sometimes on the lung filled CT as a characteristics of LAM, that is lymphoangiomyomatosis. Now what is this picture showing? This picture is showing multiple angiomyolipoma. Angiomyolipoma, you can understand from the name itself. Angio means blood vessels, myo means muscle, blood vessels, muscle, lipomas and lipid. So and lipoma and the lipids which are there, that is converting into tumor. So angiomyolipomas are the multiple angiomyolipomas are found in the kidney of tuberous sclerosis patient as a part of the AML, acute myeloid leukemia. So these patients, tuberous sclerosis patients, sometimes have AML, and as a part of it they develop the multiple angiomyolipomas in the kidney. Okay, now let us discuss about the pathogenesis of the tuberous sclerosis. How the disease started, how the disease progressed, what is the pathway by which the disease occurs, what are the genes involved, and how what is the process of this disease causing. So everything I will discuss. First, let us come into the genetics. Now about genetics, you know, particularly there are two. Number one, TCS1 and TSC1 and TSC2. TSC means tuberous sclerosis complex 1 gene, and TSC, tuberous sclerosis complex 2 gene. So these two genes are present on two different chromosomes. TSC1, that is tuberous sclerosis complex 1, is present on chromosome number 9, and TSC2, tuberous sclerosis complex 2, is present on chromosome number 16. Now always remember, this is a autosomal dominant disorder, and 2/3 of the cases are de novo. That means 2/3 of the patient comes where there with no family history of having this disease. 2/3 of the patient. If 3 people come, out of 3, 2 people have this de novo. And de novo means new. The case is completely new in the family. And familial means which is related with the family, like the parents or the grandparents or anyone in the family is having the disease, and through the genetic flow this disease has come. So that is 1/3. Now this is the mTOR. Now you know why mTOR is shown. Basically all the drugs like rapamycin and other drugs of tuberous sclerosis act on mTOR, and mTOR is generally down regulated or suppressed by the genes physiologically by tuberous sclerosis complex 1 and 2. But when the mutation occurs in tuberous sclerosis complex genes, then basically the mTOR becomes upregulated or it becomes hyperactive, and because of mTOR hyperactivity the cell division and cell growth of the tumors increases. So the tumor cell proliferates and tumor grows. So you can understand why mTOR is shown and why it is very important from the examiner's point of view. Now this is the picture by which you can understand that the two genes TSC1 and 2, they basically down regulate or suppress mTOR so that the tumor do not grow. Basically the drugs are known as the mTOR inhibitor. mTOR inhibitors are the drug which is designed at the level of the mTOR, which inhibit the action of the mTOR, basically decreases the hyperactivity state of the mTOR. So if the hyperactivity state of the mTOR is decreased, so tumor growth also decreases. In this way, tuberous sclerosis can be controlled. Now this is the picture of rapamycin. I told you that is the drug of choice for the tuberous sclerosis that acts on mTOR. Now let us discuss about the diagnosis of tuberous sclerosis. How can we diagnose tuberous sclerosis patient? Now based on genetical result you can understand, because there is genetic criteria for this disease which I already discussed, like TSC1 or TSC2 pathogenic mutations in DNA, and that results in tumor formation in tuberous sclerosis. There are clinical diagnostic criteria by which we can diagnose a tuberous sclerosis patient. These diagnostic criteria can be a major and minor. Don't worry if you cannot see this slide properly. I am telling, just listen to it. So there are two kind of features. One is major features and another is minor feature. So in case of the major feature, we get hypomelanotic macules, which is greater than 3 in number, at least 5 mm diameter. Next is angiofibromas. We get angiofibromas greater than 3 in number, or fibrous cephalic plaque. And we get ungual fibroma, which is greater than 2 in number, sharp green patch. We get multiple retinal hamartoma, cortical dysplasia, subependymal nodules, subependymal giant cell astrocytoma, cardiac rhabdomyomas, and lymphangiomyomatosis LAM, and angiomyolipomas. So all these are major features. There are minor features like confetti skin lesion, dental enamel pits, intraoral fibromas, retinal achromatic patch, multiple renal cyst, non-renal hamartomas. So basically for diagnosis, for definitive diagnosis, you need to have two major feature, or if you do not have any two major feature, then you may have one major feature with greater than 2 minor feature. So you must understand, either you have two major feature or you have one major feature and greater than 2 minor feature. Now let us discuss about the medicines which are there for tuberous sclerosis and what is the treatment available for tuberous sclerosis patients. By this slide you can understand what are the treatment option available. Like for facial angiofibroma, we have topical mTOR inhibitor. I told about the mTOR inhibitor. These are the class of drugs which will inhibit the hyperactivity state of the mTOR. But these drugs are costly and continuous treatment are needed. Next is vascular laser surgery, VLS. Vascular laser surgery is temporary improvement occurs by laser surgery. Another is ablative laser surgery, ALS. So ablative laser surgery, for ablative laser surgery, we generally do with the help of the ablative laser for the fibrotic lesions, and we need sedation or general anesthesia. And there are other methods like surgical excision, which generally is done for the large lesions, and it may be for the single or few fibrotic lesion. Surgical excision is done, and for that also we need sedation. Now this is a picture of a patient with multiple facial angiofibroma. On the left side you can see how his face was there previously, but after 9 months treatment with the help of the electrosurgery, his face become this on the right side. So you can see the improvement of the symptoms of the tuberous sclerosis with the help of the electrosurgery. So we can say that electrosurgery can be a very good method of treatment for tuberous sclerosis patient, basically for the large facial angiofibromas, multiple large facial angiofibromas. This picture is showing the result after the treatment with the help of the CO2 laser. So the same thing is there, like multiple facial angiofibroma was there in this male patient, and after treatment with the help of the CO2 laser he got the right side. So you can understand this can also be a treatment, CO2 laser treatment for tuberous sclerosis. This is the picture of a girl. You can see after 9 months treatment with 0.4% sirolimus ointment. So basically this is a topical ointment prescribed by a dermatologist, and this 0.4 sirolimus ointments helps in improving the angiofibromas which she had in her cheeks. This is the picture of rapamune, which is actually rapamycin, and this is available in tablets and syrup. You can see here suspension form. So these are actually used in treatment for tuberous sclerosis. Basically rapamycin target the mTOR, decreases the hyperactivity of the mTOR, and brings down the cell activity, cell status, and cell growth and cell proliferation of the tumor cells. So the tumor cells are stopped by rapamycin. This is the picture showing the regression of SEGA after 15 months oral treatment with the help of the rapamycin therapy in a 4-year-old pediatric patient with tuberous sclerosis. So you can see how the SEGA was there, and the SEGA has now decreased after 15 months oral treatment of rapamycin. So if you are having tuberous sclerosis, don't worry, we have medications, and you must consult a specialist doctor, medicine specialist doctor, MD physician for tuberous sclerosis, and together we can cure tuberous sclerosis. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like our channel and like the content of this channel, please like the video and subscribe our channel for getting more videos like this. Our channel is solely for the helping the MBBS students in studies. We have already crossed 650 plus YouTube subscribers and 700 plus Instagram StudyGum followers. And I would like to thank every single one of you from the bottom of my heart for following me, and do suggest me any topic on which I can make more videos. Thank you so much. Bye bye.